look at, because that is an area where a lot of people are vulnerable. You want to adopt a security plan. Whatever you come up with something. Like I said, what I'm giving you is not the end-all be-all. You guys come up with what is best for your church. Assemble a security team and appoint a security team leader to implement the plan and coordinate training and education for the congregation. Presentation-wise, it's going to touch on this a little bit later. I understand that you can't necessarily get up and give your entire congregation, okay, this is what we're going to do. If a fellow comes in here with a shotgun and he starts shooting people, then this is what we're going to do. Some people just don't want to hear that. And I understand that. In the world that we deal with at the sheriff's office, that is something that you have to be prepared for. I've been on our SRT team for almost 15 years. You have these, and I'm not making light of it in any way, but when it talks about a security team, you don't want the timid, scared to get involved fella or lady who is there to shake hands and sing, and nothing against praying with people. I need more than anybody probably, but you're going to want folks on your team who can take charge, who are leaders in your church. Well, not saying necessarily leaders in your church, but who aren't going to, they're going to do the buckling rather than buckle. How about that? That's probably the best way to put it. Also, your security risk assessment or your place of worship. These are folks that you are going to want to get involved in your, if you call us and you're trying to develop a security plan, call us, we'll send somebody out, we will try to assist you with doing that. But the sheriff, your other local law enforcement, if you're in the city of Monroe or Marshall or Wingate or Stallings, let them know, because they're probably going to get there before we are, unless we just happen to be riding by. Your fire and rescue folks, and when it says private consultants, I'm just going to be 100% honest with you. I don't know who you would probably consult. Let me back up. There are folks who will come out and charge you a bunch of money to give you a security plan. I'm not knocking those folks at all, but I'm telling you, if I can put one together, you folks can put one together. No questions asked. When you are, again, talking about prevention, when you are looking at your security risk assessment, our goals are assessing risks, the threats during there again, like I said, taking up office. Who escorts that money? Who is the another thing that I know churches are, and you guys are talking about it in this other room here. If something happens in your child care, how do you know that? If you're sitting, if all the parents are sitting in the congregation and preaching is just, I'm telling you, it's hammering down, paint's peeling off the walls, and something happens in your children's department, how do you know that? Anybody got a, what do you
walkie-talkies?
Walkie-talkies, great option. I will tell you, make sure you keep them charged, because when they're not charged, they really don't do y'all good. We ran into that before. Walkie-talkies are really good. We have in our church, there's it's like a 3-digit digital screen that's about that big around over in the corner. Whenever you sign your child into our child care, that we have a portion that's cordoned off that is pretty much elementary school and down. When you sign, like when I sign our children in, the last 4 digits of my phone number go in there. If they have a problem with my kid, they put up those last 4 digits. If I see my number flash, then everything's not interrupted. I just go take care of business. On the other hand, if they have trouble and they really need some help, there's a number that they flash up there. And if we see that, then there's 4, 5, 6 people who are automatically getting up and going. But you're wanting to look at your facility. How is it set up? Can you secure specific areas? If something happens in your sanctuary, Can you keep it shut off from the children's area? Can you keep it shut off from, anywhere else in the church? Can you lock down a portion of your facility if you had to? Just something to look at. And a lot of that is nothing more than just putting a lock on the door. There's some simple fixes for those. Also, you want to look at what the lady is speaking. Tell me her name again. I have totally lost it.
Sure.
Yes. When you were talking about your staff and volunteers, people a lot of times can get over somebody being shot. They do it quite often. But if you really want to cause your church some problems, you let somebody go and be volunteering in your daycare or in your child care area, and you let them start messing with young, you might as well shut your door because you are going to get. I'm telling you, people are going to bombard you in your church, and it's just going to be bad. So if you're not looking at the folks who are staff and who are volunteers at your church, if you're not doing background checks on those folks, that's something that I would highly recommend to you. Look at your congregation demographic. Who's going to your church? Know who the law enforcement folks are at your church. Know who the EMS personnel are at your church. If something happens, know who you can call on when you have an incident. There again, child care protocol, community threats. How many of your churches are in the best neighborhood ever? How many of them are in the worst? We had a little thing, I laughed. They said we had a deal at our church, and we were kind of dividing up areas, and we were going out and doing door-to-door, kind of knocking on doors, inviting people to church, right? So there was this one area of town that everybody said, well, I'm not going down there. And I'm like, oh, well, why not? When are you going down there? Did you hear what happened down there last week? I said, well, good. That's folks need to come. Let's go. And know the area around your community. And something simple that may not have anything at all to do with the security of. Every time we think about church security, we think about somebody coming in and shooting the place up, right? If you're in Marshall and a train derails, and you're at the East Campus, and you have to start evacuating, do you think that may be something good to put in your church security plan? Can you get people out of your church without having to take them down 74? Is there a back entrance or exit? Are there ways, if you were going to come into this building, how many of you came in the front door tonight? How many of you know a different way to get out? That's something that you need to let folks know, because a lot of people, they just come and they follow the fellow in front of them. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But we have to know our surroundings as far as our community and our buildings as well. Communications, internal and external. It goes into here a little bit later in the presentation that if something happens at your church, that you're supposed to designate one person to call 911. How many of you think if something happens at your church, how many people you think is going to be calling 911? Everybody. Probably so. But like I said, we'll talk about that here in a minute. Have some policies and procedures in place. Know what those are. And again, it talks about the handling of money during worship services. It's just a matter of time before somebody comes in. How many of you have ever had your church broken into? I know I worked in investigations several years ago, and that was a constant that we were having churches. I shouldn't say a constant. We were having random churches broken into. And when you're talking about church security, do people have to be there for your church to be secure? How many of you leave the doors open or unlocked when you leave? I mean, there are a lot of churches that they're open 24 hours, right? Maybe not here in Union County, but I can promise you there are churches that have their doors open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When you're talking about prevention of incidents at your church, one of those is somebody breaking in your church. Can you prevent that all the time? No, but are there things that you can do to help mitigate that? And I always revert back to my investigations days. If something gets stolen out of your church, how many of you know the serial number to the soundboard? Just something to think about. When we're talking about the entire gamut of church security. Like I say, that's something that we would be more than happy to come out to your church and kind of give you a little bit more insight into specific to your facility. And like I said, again, we've talked about it several times. The goal is to adopt a basic plan of operation before, during, and after a critical incident. Because I can promise you, if you wait till a critical incident happens, you will not be prepared for it. So by all means, be proactive when you're looking at this. Go ahead, Chad, let's see the next one. As far as the framework for this, one thing that the Union County Public School System does really well is they have these, what they call CERT kits. And like I said, we're all school resource officers, so that's why I'm trying to, using them as an example. Facility blueprints, camera alarms, locked or unlocked doors and windows, exterior lighting, all of these things when you're talking about a framework, the school system takes these CERT boxes. They have one at every school, and let's say the one for Forest Hills stays at Forest Hills, but they also make one, and it may be kept at Marshall Elementary, the closest, the next, or Union, East Union Middle School. But it is bus routes, student rosters, class rosters, teacher roster, fire exits, water shutoffs, alarm codes, a master key for the school. All of this stuff is in one box. We go through every year and check these boxes. That is something that I would highly recommend you put in your church and have it in a centrally located spot to where if something came in or if something happened at your church and the sheriff's office showed up, that, you know, if it is a major incident at your church, then somebody other than the church member can go around and show us where to go or what we need to do to cut an alarm off or cut the water off or cut the gas off or that type of stuff. Just something to think about when you're looking at the kind of the whole realm of church security, rather. All right, establish the role of the security team before, during, and after. How many of you already have security teams? 1, 2, 3, 4. This doesn't have to be a large group of folks. It really doesn't. I mean, if you've got 1, 2, or I'd say more than 2, probably 3, 4 folks that could help out with this, would be really, really beneficial to you. Their role, first and foremost, is communication. There again, if any kind of incident happens at your church, whether it be for police, fire, medical, anything of that sort, these are the folks who can meet the emergency services personnel at the front door and say, come with me. This is where we need to go. This is where the incident occurred. Preparation, drills. This was brought up in a training class that we went to a few months ago. There again, talking about school systems. How many times do you guys know of in your lifetime that a school has caught on fire? Who can name the last one? All right. How often do schools do fire drills?
Once a month.
Once a month. When's the last time a tornado hit a school? How often do they do the tornado? Everybody remembers doing it, right? Where you get in the hallway and you strap down and stick your head between your legs and hope for the best, right? Same thing. You know, we plan for, if you look around this building, there again, how many times, when's the last time a church caught on fire and burned down? I'm talking in Union County. When's the last time you guys remember a church burning down? What do they put in every new church? Sprinkler systems, fire alarms, emergency exits, right? And we never have that. We never. I mean, I said that we're going to probably have one tonight, but you know, folks in the fire system, they do building code stuff. That is in preparation for something bad happening at your facility. If that's the case, and if we are, how many of you are worried about your church catching on fire? How many of you are worried? Apparently, some of you are worried about a critical incident at your church. So if we look at one versus the other, you know, they really don't weigh out, right? They don't weigh out the same. If we look at the steps that we take to prevent fires and prevent electrical hazards at our church, as opposed to what we do security-wise for a critical incident at our church, they don't really weigh out. But that's kind of what we are looking at here for those preparation drills. Also, what is a greeter's role? What do your greeters do?
Pat down service.
Do they? And I'm not meaning this to be rude in any way, okay? But stand up for me, sir. You don't mind volunteering, do you? All right, if he comes into church, how you doing, sir? Andrew Mullis, nice to meet you. What's your name? Darryl Paul. Now, where are you from, Mr. Paul? New Salem, good to meet you. Hope you enjoyed church today. Glad to have you. All right, he's pretty inviting, right? Right, pretty nice fella. He looks like he wants to be there. If I needed to go up and talk to him, I could go up and say, man, how did you enjoy the service? Was it good? Good. Glad to have you today. Now, if he comes up and I try to do that as a greeter, and he looks at me and says, who's the you-know-what are you? I probably want to keep a little bit of an eye on him. Okay.